Hey everybody, this is Gabe Hernandez with Weird Science Marvel Comics. Today we are going to be talking about Captain America, Sentinel of Liberty, number 7. This is written by Jackson Lanzing and Collin Kelly, art by Carmen Carnero, colors by Nolan Woodard, and letters by VC's Joe Caramagna. Now, when we last left off with Steve Rogers Captain America, we're not talking about Sam Wilson Captain America, this is Steve Rogers Captain America. He was fighting with Bucky over what to do after their battle with the Outer Circle. Bucky had killed the Revolution, and he was trying to decide whether or not to take Revolution's place or to leave with Steve. Bucky said yes, Cap said no, and that was pretty much the entire issue of them battling back and forth to figure out how that was going to play out. At the end of the issue, Bucky let Cap go along with his arm into the drink, and that's where they two separated, where Bucky took the position of Revolution, now renaming himself into the New Revolution, and taking his place on the Council of the Outer Circle. Okay, that all sounds great, so where do we go from here? According to the solicit, Steve fought to bring his best friend home, but Bucky stood his ground and dropped Steve and his own metal arm over the edge of the Outer Circle's airship to prevent further interference. Now, Captain America is without his right-hand man for the first time in a long time, but the Sentry game has begun again, and after forming a tenuous alliance with another star point, Peggy Carter, the New Revolution declared his first move, Sharon Carter to Steve Rogers. Now, I will tell you, after having read this issue, what they just described as far as Sharon Carter or anyone else moving in on Steve Rogers at the behest of Bucky, who is now the New Revolution, doesn't really play a part in this issue, but, we're going to go ahead and see where it takes us. So when we start off, Steve is sitting by the river outside of New York City looking very sad, very mopey because he just lost his best friend. He's looking like he just not only lost his best friend, but somebody killed his dog and somebody stole his bike, and he's just looking so sad, so forlorn, but he's just trying to get his head together and figure out what to do. But when all of a sudden, who pops up out of nowhere is Namor, who just comes right up out of the river holding Cap's shield. Now, at the end of the last issue, Cap was dropped off of the airship and into the water, so apparently not only did he injure his arm, he lost his shield, and here comes Namor running right along to return his shield and give Captain Rogers Steve a little bit of a pep talk. Now, why is Namor just showing up out of the blue? Obviously, because Black Panther Wakanda Forever just came out in theaters, starring the first MCU appearance of Namor, so obviously they're trying to synergize the comic book with the movies. That's fine. There's really no appearance of Namor after this opening scene where he just basically gives Cap a little bit of pep talk saying, hey, Bucky had to do what he had to do because he's that kind of guy. He kills people, he can hide in the shadows, he can do the dirty work to destroy the Outer Circle from the inside. Cap's like, well, that's not really me. I couldn't do that. I couldn't stop him. And Namor just confirms or affirms him a little bit, gives him some much needed validation by saying, look, you do what you do because you are not Bucky. He did what he did because he is Bucky. So sort of the light and the dark of the hero side. And Namor just says, here's your shield. Go do what you got to do. See you later. Peace out. I'm out of here. And so off he goes. And that's pretty much it. You don't see Namor again. Cap tries to reestablish his humdrum day-to-day life by taking drawing lessons, meeting at the senior center, making friends, jogging around the neighborhood. And all of a sudden he gets a call from Roger Aubrey, a.k.a. Dynamite, one of the seniors that he's been in radio contact with, which put him onto the whole Outer Circle in the first place. And Roger says, hey, I've got some news for you. I've been looking into communication with AIM, and there has been nothing going on. And Steve's like, well, that's not a big deal. Why should that be a problem? Roger says, no, you don't understand. There is no communication with AIM going on. There is no technology on the market. There's nothing going on, which means AIM has gone into hiding for some bigger reason that's creating a threat for them, or they're planning something big. And Steve's like, well, okay, I got to get some guys together and see if we can figure this out. But before he does that, he heads over to Bucky's old apartment, which has been thoroughly cleaned out, except for a little red glowing stone that's sitting on the shelf that Bucky left for him. So he knows deep down Bucky's still his guy, and he's still giving him some help whenever he needs it. So Steve takes off. He goes back to his apartment with a little red crystal that he found, and somebody's waiting for him. He thinks it's maybe an assassin or a tail or somebody keeping him under surveillance. And who's it turned out to be? It's Agent 13, Sharon Carter, who's come by also to give him a little bit of a pep talk. So this is the issue of pep talks, where everybody sees that Steve's down and in the dumps, and they need to give him a little pep talk. Although the way Sharon gives him a little bit of pep talk is more of the adult nature, because they have some, how should we say, adult activities that evening to kind of bring Steve around. And that seems to do the trick, at least for a little bit, to snap him out of it. So the two of them decide, well, if AIM's up to something, and we know Bucky's working on the inside for the Outer Circle, then we need to get some trusted folks together. So what do? They take take off into the New York subways for a little powwow or a meeting with folks who they can trust in a secret bunker that's located somewhere. Who knows? I guess it's in Midtown. We'll figure that out later, I suppose. And so who's in the meeting? It's Nick Fury. We've got Hawkeye. We've got Black Widow and Sharon's aunt, Peggy Carter. So the Peggy and Sharon Carter there, well, you'd think that'd be a little bit awkward because Steve and Sharon had a nice night together, but that's the way it goes. And then Roger Aubrey shows up there as well to relay the information that he's been gathering on the AIM radio silence. So once they get everybody together, Steve lays it all out and he explains who the Outer Circle is, what they're doing, and why. So we transition from Mopey Steve with a couple of different cameo characters showing up to give him some pep talks and make him feel better, if you know what I mean. Then get together in a meeting with a bunch of other heroes where he does essentially a recap for the first 6 issues. And he explains who the Outer Circle is, who are the star points, what did Bucka do, and why, and what are they supposed to do from here. So eventually, they all discuss what's going on with the Outer Circle. They start making plans. They figure out who they're going to talk to, where they're going to gather intel, how are they going to get their plans together, and eventually go on the offensive to figure out they're going to take the Outer Circle down. Then suddenly, the screen goes black. Without explanation, out of nowhere, no explanation whatsoever, no lead up or setup or intro. They don't see any shiny bright lights. There's no strange noises. The screen just goes black, and all of a sudden, Cap wakes up in Kansas. How did he get in Kansas? Who knows? He's in the middle of a cornfield. He sees a little boy riding by on a bicycle, and he says, "Where am I, kid?" "I'm in Kansas. What's going on?" And then we cut to a scene where all of New York City looks like it's trapped inside of a honeycomb force field shield owned by AIM. So somehow Cap mysteriously disappeared, lost his memory of how he disappeared, wakes up in Kansas, and then New York City is under AIM control. And that's the end of the issue. Very strange ending, very bizarre ending, and I'm not sure that it's really making any progress in the Outer Circle, but that's exactly how the situation plays out. So as far as stories go, it doesn't make a whole lot of plot progress. The pacing's good, the art looks good, although there's not a whole lot of happening. It's just a bunch of people talking with each other. So there's not a whole lot of happening here as far as the actual progression of the plot in Cap's attack on, or his plans to attack the Outer Circle, take the Outer Circle down, get a team together. It's just a lot of moping, a lot of talking, a lot of thinking about what they're going to do, and all of a sudden it cuts to AIM has already taken over New York City. Very strange, very bizarre, very jarring. The art looks good. The facial expressions are fine. There's a lot of personal drama acting because the characters are trying to look at each other. Cap looks sad, then he looks confused, then he looks concerned. And so that's the extent of the art. There's not much of any action or actual plot progress here. So that brings it down on the score. So I'm giving Captain America Sentinel of Liberty #7 a 5.5 out of 10. And hopefully that when we get into the next issue, we get a little bit more explanation of what's going on with AIM and figure out where this series is going, because right now it doesn't seem to be going anywhere. And thank you very much. This is Gabe Hernandez for Weird Science Marvel Comics.